Ghana went to the polls on December 7. That's about 3 weeks ago, and a presidential candidate was declared winner of this year's general election. Former President John Mahama, incoming president, was declared at that election. But days after this was done, 9 constituencies perhaps are living in confusion, with uncertainty hanging over them, because the Electoral Commission, as it were, has been forced to recollate election results in these areas and has had to even redeclare new winners for these constituencies. What are the legalities surrounding these issues, and what is the way forward for us? Hello, good evening, and welcome to Agenda. My name is Beatrice Edu, and tonight we'll be going into this issue and whether or not the EC is in the right to have done what it did after the High Court ordered it or gave it the mandate to go ahead to recollate and redeclare constituency results in these contested areas. And I'm joined in the studio now by Roxy Nelson Dafiamepo. He's a member of parliament for South Dine in the Volta region. He's also a lawyer with the now incoming National Democratic Congress government. Good evening to you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us on Agenda.
Thank you very much, and good evening to your viewers, especially my people in South Dine. Me peki kwali my tongo and kweve. And Merry Christmas in advance to my people.
Thank you very much. We are also joined by Andy Apia Kubi, who is also a member of parliament as well for the outgoing NPP. He joins us on the phone. Good evening to you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us on Agenda.
Well, good evening, and thank you for calling.
And we'll be joined as well by video call by Professor Ali Disedu. He's the head of political science department at the University of Ghana, as well as Dr. Bernard Tutubuahin, who is a political communications analyst. I think we do already have Professor Ali Disedu. Prof, if you can hear us and see us, good evening. Thank you for joining us. Okay, so he'll be joining us very shortly. But let me start with you, Mr. Apia Kubi, before I come to Mr. Nelson Dafiamepo.
Dafiamepo.
Okay,
yes.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
I know that on Saturday, the Electoral Commission declared 7 seats, or redeclared, as it were, for the NPP. You must be happy that out of the 9 contested, the party has 7.
Yes, of course. People were expecting that the figures weren't correct as earlier declared, and they were alleging all kinds of irregularities during the process of the coalition. So obviously, the Electoral Commission has the responsibility to ensure that it did its mandate without any fear or the safe environment, in also making sure that the declaration was very lawful. So obviously, if we have the opportunity to correct themselves in the process, I would say that we should be happy. Not only me, our democracy should be happy.
And so for you, you think that the decision by the Electoral Commission to recollate and redeclare, as it were, in these 9 constituencies, this decision is in the rights. It's according to our democracy. That's the argument you're making.
Yes, I think so, because the laws of Ghana place responsibility on individuals and institutions, and the responsibility placed on such institutions and individuals is premised, most of them are premised on law, and law is to function policy direction. And therefore, if a responsibility is placed on an entity, there is a presumption of participation in an environment that is also approved by law. So if there is anything untoward done in frustrating the exercise of the mandate, the same law that places the responsibility also places the responsibility for you to ensure lawfulness of your mandate. And therefore, if everything is done that threatens to undermine the environment within which the law expects a performance, and it is corrected subsequently. I think it is also lawful that it is not a cabinet declaration alone, but a correctness of the declaration is also important. So I'm happy that it happens like that. And again, the law requires of institutions and persons educating a mandate to do it right and to have opportunity to also correct a mistake in the process of exercising the mandate. So you wouldn't say that once the mandate is placed on you to exercise a responsibility, that is expected to be done even in an unlawful way. So the action as placed by you by law also presumes that the environment within which you do or you perform your mandate is also governed by law. So it cannot be just a responsibility without an enabling environment to perform that responsibility. So both the environment to perform, both the processes to perform, and both the performance of that action ought to be lawful to make the end result lawful.
Ought to be lawful. And I know these are your preliminary comments, but I want to ask you this question just for clarity before I come to Mr. Dafia-Mekpo, who is in the studio with us. You're a lawyer, and I know you do understand that expression or that phrase of express your rule, where it says that you do not include anything that is not included in the law, and you do not exclude what is already excluded in the law. I'm sure you understand what I'm trying to say. But if you look at the CI 12743 in particular, which was used to regulate this election as it were, there's no place in it which says that after you've declared, you should go back to say that, I'm sorry, I made a mistake, so I'm redeclaring.
Yes, but it is also the law that, and particularly Article 279C of our Constitution, it says when there is a power given to a person or authority to enforce or in doing an act or thing, all such powers shall be deemed to be given to as are necessary to enable that person to or authority to enforce the doing of that thing. It is a part of the Constitution. And indeed, if the Constitution says that we are giving you a mandate, the same Constitution says that that mandate ought to be exercised within the environment that is also approved by law. And if you go to the interpretation section also, section 2 of the Interpretation Act, where there is a conferment of power on the person or entity to decide in administrative function or make an appointment, or the power may also be performed in order to correct an error or omission in the previous exercise of the same power.
And on this note,
these are also laws. So you cannot say that the law says that do A, B, C, D, and the law will not be concerned with the environment within which you do the A, B, C, D. It says the law says walk a distance, and in the process of walking a distance, people come before you and want to, intimidate you or want to even coerce you to doing something that is unlawful. How would the law accommodate unlawfulness within the exercise of the administrative function given to you? No, it cannot be a case that once the law says this, it doesn't matter the circumstances and the way you also perform that duty. No, it cannot be a case. I mean, we are all trying to develop our democracy, so we cannot have, a one-sided interpretation to laws in the country.
We cannot have a one-sided interpretation.
All the laws are to be considered together in expressing a mandate or in the performance of a mandate.
Mr. Apiakubi, I'll come back to you because I want to get the preliminary thought as well of Mr. Nelson Roxanne Dafia-Mekpo, MP for Southern, who is in the studio with us. I know the NDC and you in particular, you've been leading this charge against the re-collation and redeclaration of constituency results and, of course, the MPs there. You've just heard the preliminary thought of Andy Apiakubi. I'm wondering what yours is.
Thank you very much. Andy is my senior in law school. I was, I think, a year behind him. But in Parliament, we came together. I've listened to him. We've done a lot of battles, but I think this evening he's getting his law and analysis wrong. My dear, what are we talking about? We are talking about the organization of a public election, i.e., the 2024 December 7th general elections, the presidential and the parliamentary. And let me point out something very poignant. For the first time, the EC directed that presidential ballots will be collated first. You realize that? Often it is parliamentary that is collated first. Then they take their time to collate presidential. So part of the problem that we have had was as a result of this switch. Now, second, the EC is mandated in law to abide the terms and tenor of the regulations governing public elections, especially CI 127/2020, promulgated on 2nd July 2020 by Mensa itself, and the PNDC Law 284, they regulate our public elections. There's nowhere that it says that when you disagree with declarations of parliamentary results, there should be re-collation. There's nowhere. Number two, if you check section 20, I believe so, or PNDC law 284, it tells you what an aggrieved party should do, should proceed to court, and how it should proceed in the event that you are aggrieved with the outcome of a public election. The forum convenience for you is to proceed to the High Court. Now, we should pay attention to what has happened. And let me, for instance, speak about the matters that have engaged the public attention from Okayinkwe Central, Ablekuma North, Domekwa Abinya, Tema Central, and the rest. In Tema Central, at the close of poll on Saturday, polling station results have been collated. Our candidate was leading. But by the time they moved to the collation center at Chemu, our lead had been whittled down magically from about 2,300 votes to about 500 votes. Now, the Metro Director for Elections, Mr. Ofosuhini, refused to perform his functions of office. An EC officer who will simply be lethargic in collating results. You see, in collation simply means tabulate, because the calculations have already been done at the polling stations pursuant to Regulation 18 of CI 127. Polling stations have been established and gazetted. So results have been declared, and when results are declared at polling stations, pursuant to Regulation 39, sub-Regulation 3 thereabout, you are supposed to paste copies of the declared results at polling stations. So when the Supreme Court said some time ago that results, the election is won at the polling stations, this is what we used to transpose into our regulation to guide us. There were a lot of presiding officers from these polling stations who were not doing that. So that, again, in itself is a material breach. So in the course of the collation in Tema Central, for instance, on Saturday, somebody decided to create problems from the MPP side. So the police had cause to throw in tear gas, dispersing the marauding crowd. Collation had to be halted. Then announcement was made that we needed to go back or to return the next day to continue with collation. Where were we supposed to do it? We were supposed to do it at the premises of the Tema Regional Police Command. So we were all supposed to have been convened on Tuesday. Then Sunday night, message came that EC in Accra had directed that the collation slated for Tuesday should rather be done on 9th December, Monday. No problem. We went there. We were given the parking lot of the regional commander and his seniors.
I want you to be wrapping up
yes,
on your preliminary
I'll wrap up on that. Now, when we got there, the returning officer, who is mandated in law under Regulation 2 and Regulation 3 of CI 127, to commandeer the collation process, Mr. Kwesi Brobe, has been silent. And one Mr. Fosuhini, who is the Metro Director of Elections for Tema Central, now decided to take charge. He decided to conduct the collation according to his whims, according to his desires, according to his thinking, and appointed it out to him, but no. We are enjoined in law to do the collation in accordance with law. The power that you have to reject a bad ballot, for instance, when somebody prints and it doesn't land in the rectangular box provided against the name of a contestant, that you, the elections officer or electoral officer, can have the power to reject it or to declare it as a rejected ballot. In the same way, where pink sheets have been fabricated clearly, they ought to be rejected. And very briefly, you won't have any of that. Very briefly, before I go on, we do have the Electoral Commission responding to some of these issues, including the certiorari. The NDC says you filed at the Supreme Court after the High Court rejected your injunction application against the mandamos that was filed by the NPP. But you heard Andy Appiah Kubi there. Conclude. Yes, yes. You heard when we come back. You heard Andy Appiah Kubi saying that the fact that, you know, I quoted to him the expressio rule, and he counted it. He counted it and talked about the fact that the law says this doesn't mean that if people feel that they've made a mistake, they shouldn't go back to correct that. Can I get your brief comment, and then we'll hear from the Electoral Commission really telling us why they thought they had to do what they did on Saturday. Now, where somebody alleges a mistake in terms of declaration, citing reasons like under duress, citing reasons like threat and all that, those are not matters that the EC has the power to pronounce on. When you say that I have threatened you or I place you under duress, you are making an allegation. So you must go to court, swear to an oath, you enter the witness box. I need to cross-examine you because you are going to lead evidence of the duress. You are going to particularize the incidents of the duress. And I should be able to cross-examine you on these allegations. And on this note, I want you to watch Dr. Bosman Asare, who is the Deputy Chair at the Electoral Commission. I spoke with him just some minutes ago before we came on air. Listen to him and watch him explain why the Electoral Commission did what it did on Saturday.
We are still left with 2 to go. We are very hopeful that we'll get it done way before the swearing in Parliament. Doc, are you able to tell us which part of the CI 127, the constitutional instrument you used for this year's general election, it was the same you used in 2020, where in that CI that permits the Electoral Commission to recollate results and redeclare winners of parliamentary elections after they've already been declared in the constituencies? The Constitution, Article 45, says that of all the institutions in Ghana, it's only the Electoral Commission of Ghana which is mandated to conduct and supervise. And when you are supervising the process, if the process doesn't go well, you raise issues and you address the processes. Apart from that, we have CI 127. CI 127 Regulation 43. It provides that when you are doing collation, each candidate is supposed to have 2 agents at the collation center. So anytime there are encroachers at the collation center, it undermines what the law says. Apart from Regulation 43, Regulation 48 also talks about even when agents are not present, the collation can still take place. And the 43 I mentioned, it provides some steps to be followed when you are doing the collation. So once those steps are not followed, and you have an instance whereby somebody is compelled against his or her will or under duress to declare somebody a winner, that is not acceptable as far as the commission is concerned. So that is the word of the Electoral Commission saying that your officers there were under duress? No, it's not the word of the Electoral Commission. It's the word of our officers. Your officers claimed that they were under duress? No, you said they claimed.
Yes.
No,
that's what
they
you're
said
saying.
they were under duress.
Let's take it step by step, Doc. You still haven't answered the question of which part of the CI allows the Electoral Commission to recollate results of constituencies and to redeclare.
I think I mentioned, let me come back. I said CI 127, Regulation 43. It provides the framework for collation. So any collation that does not follow that process is unacceptable.
And I will read that very briefly. It says that the returning officer ensures figures from polling stations are corrected and tallied. But then it goes on
read
to
that
say...
The returning officer ensures what?
The returning officer ensures the figures from all polling stations
are
correctly tallied. Once verified and accepted, a returning officer completes the constituency collation form and declares result. Now, you declare the total number, valid, rejected, and all of that, after which, and there's a part of it where it says that when there is a problem or there's a contestation, the EC may recount at that instant. But it didn't say that after there has been, for instance, after you've passed that stage and you have declared the winner.
What you just read, you said the returning officer must put together all the polling station results.
But I'm arriving at a result. I'm just saying that after you have declared the winner, I didn't see anything in the CI that said that after declaration is done, you go back and say that because there were these previous challenges, we are going to redeclare winner.
No, Billy, let me say this. We have officers, returning officers for each constituency. The same people who declared the results you are claiming they declared said no, that's not what transpired. And that at a gunpoint, at a knife point, I was compelled to declare a winner who didn't win.
Our cameras were there. I don't remember we reported that they put knives and guns
did you watch the declaration of Okankwe Central? Have you seen the footage?
I did.
Did you hear the officer saying I declared with 78%?
No.
Did you hear that?
I'm asking you a question specific to what you just said, which is the guns and the knives. And I'm saying that I don't recall our cameras recording that.
But usually in those instances,
because that's what you're using to say under duress.
No, the point is under duress apart from that. But did you see the footage of Okankwe Central being declared?
Yes.
Did you hear the person saying I'm declaring with 78% of the polling station?
Yes, we know that in some constituencies they declare.
And we are saying all those are unlawful.
Okay, but what happened in Damango where one person died and where the current lands minister, Abu Jinapo, they declared without all the results?
Are you sure? Damango, they declared with all the results?
No, not with all the polling stations. Also, in the issue of Techiman South, 2020, during the parliamentary election, when the NDC had issues with the result, you told them to go to court. So people are feeling that there's a double standard being played here by the Electoral Commission in this year's general election.
Let me put things in the right context. Techiman South in 2020, the report from our district officer, as well as the returning officers, was they had gone through the entire process required by CI 127. They went through the entire process. So when that report came to us, we said, once you've gone through the entire processes, anyone who has an issue with it must use the legal system because the entire processes they've gone through without any problem. In 2024, they didn't go through the entire process. The same people who did the exercise, those alleged declarations, the same people who did it, those same people came to the commission and said, no, that's not what transpired.
So you don't see what happened in Techiman South and what is happening now as a double standard?
No, it's not double. Anyone who claims what happened in 2020 in Techiman South, what happened in 2024 in Techiman South?
I'm talking about 2020.
No, what happened in 2020?
Where you told the agreed to go to court.
And what has happened? Are you referring to 2024 in Techiman South?
2024, you are not asking the agreed to go to court.
No, because
after the elections have been declared.
2020, the processes were followed. No, they didn't declare. What that was fraudulent declaration, and the commission will not gazette anyone who, in our estimation, went through a fraudulent process.
You are just referring to your men who, and of course that's a fact that is out there, that there were certain constituencies that didn't have all the polling station figures.
And I think you mentioned that one.
Yes, those were, so a second, those were your men. So you should be taking responsibility for your men being at a place they've been trained to do this. They know the CI, and yet they went ahead to declare.
So the ones they did at Okankwe Central, Ablekumanov, Tema Central, they didn't make that point because it would have changed the outcome. I think, Beatrice, one of the things we must understand is that the Electoral Commission is a creation of the Constitution. there are clearly specified functions of the Electoral Commission, and we must perform those functions to the best of our ability, to the letter.
And you think you've done that?
Oh, no, that's what we have done, and we are left with 2 to go. So the point is that whether someone is happy or someone is unhappy, that shouldn't be an issue. That's why the law provides that if you are not satisfied with what the EC is doing, there is a way to go.
What we also understand is that just after the High Court did that, the NDC filed a certiorari at the Supreme Court to quash the decision of the High Court. What we are being told by NDC executives is that the certiorari was served on the Electoral Commission. You received or acknowledged receipt of that. The police administration,
on Friday.
That's what we are told. The police administration as well. Yet, irrespective of this Supreme Court certiorari, you still went ahead and did what you did on Saturday.
No,
how do you respond?
I don't know about this certiorari at the Supreme Court. I don't know anything about it. But what I want to say is that the Commission has been given clearly defined functions. And those clearly defined functions, what my understanding of the legal process is that if even you are going to take the issue to court over parliamentary or presidential election, what you do is that you must allow the process to come to an end. The processes have not come to an end. So, per the advice from our lawyers, what we did on Saturday was very, very much lawful as far as our laws are.
The lawyers, did it include the Attorney General?
The Attorney General is not our lawyer. We have our own
because
internal...
the NDC is alleging.
Oh, no, I think that one is new to me.
The Attorney General, when you were contacted as to why you decided to go ahead, despite the certiorari, you said that the AG had advised you
you were referring to was even on Friday. So at what point would we contact the Attorney General? We have never contacted them. We don't do that. We have our own lawyers. We have our in-house and external counsels we engage.
Doc, you don't think that what the Electoral Commission has done in this year's general election is setting a bad precedent where, perhaps in the future, assuming that the presidential candidate is declared winner, EC can then come back and say that we are sorry, there were ABCD reasons, and therefore we are going back?
You know, Beatrice, that cannot happen because the presidential election is declared by the chairperson of the Electoral Commission. Didn't you hear before the elections that all the parties were claiming that by 12 midnight, they would have gotten all the results from the polling station? So what we are doing now, these are results all the parties have. Commission doesn't know the winner of any of these outstanding ones. So what we are saying is that you have your pin sheet, bring all, let's put them together and get the winner. And I'm surprised that some people will have issue with it when we need to ensure that truth.
And what you just watched there, Dr. Bosman Asare, he's Deputy Chair of the Electoral Commission. I'll be getting the thoughts of Dafiamekpo very shortly, as well as Andy Apiakubi, who is still on the line with us. But let me say that we're joined by Dr. Bernard Tutubuahing, who is a political and communications marketing strategist. He joins us via video call. Doc, if you can give us your brief comment, really, on what has transpired so far and what you just heard Dr. Bosman Asare say, and then we'll come back to get some more. Hello, Dr. Bernard Tutubuahing, can you hear us? Okay. We'll have to correct that line to him.
Hello, Beatrice, can you hear me?
Excellent. We can hear you now. Please give us your preliminary thought on what has transpired so far and with just this explanation coming from the Electoral Commission.
Yes, so good evening to you. Good evening to Honorable Andy Apiakubi and good evening to Honorable Dafiamekpo. I think that, yes, for me, the reps for the EC has, explained the position of the EC and, as it were, backed by, the LI. And I think that the LI is there for anybody's reference to be made. Secondly, I think that Honorable Dafiamekpo's position, explaining that the EC has not shown that kind of good faith is also, clear. And I think that anybody who wants to probably look at, the differences between the two claims, probably will have to visit the LI to, as it were, understand, the aspects of it. But to a large extent, I feel that, yes, the court should also come clear on the explanations of some of these things. I don't know whether someone or the NDC, the MPP is equally going to challenge it. But I think that it will be an interesting case, you know, to get interpretations from the judiciary. Beatrice, my view about the whole, you know, hula baloo has to do with the fact that I think that going forward, this country should be able to understand the fact that, you know, state institutions should be made independent and to actually rely on their powers to be able to give some of these decisions out clearly. For me, I believe that, yes, you know, in as much as we are in this country and politics is part of us, and we may be crossing political paths, it is very important, you know, it's established very well. Whatever is happening has to do with issues of mistrust. Both the two major political parties have their concerns, and it has to do with trust and mistrust for each other. I don't think that this will serve us any good if such occurrences keep happening. And for me, if the two major political parties leading us, one, don't trust each other and do not have that same trust for institutions of states, like the Electoral Commission, the Ghana Police Service, you know, the security agencies and all, then of course, what is the importance for these institutions, you know, should to be there for us to be paying them.
Doc, you think that this is just a problem of mistrust, but the other argument is also about the interpretation of the law and how perhaps we should implement it in our activities. How about that?
Yes, so I think I made that point earlier about the fact that the interpretations is coming with some level of challenges, all right? Where,
interpretation by who?
I think that
by who exactly? Whose interpretation do you think has issues?
I think that, I'm not saying it has issues, but I'm saying that there seems to be that there is no clear clear-cut understanding of each of them. Okay, so probably the MPP is looking at it from a particular lens, and then the NDC is also looking at it from a particular lens. So that's what I'm saying, that, you know, if MPP says that, yes, we need to do re-collation, which means that probably there should be some counting and figures put out, and the NDC is also saying that, no, you cannot go and then do, if I heard Honorable Dafiamakpo right, you know, it is not about going back to count, you know, the ballots again, but whatever has been tallied, go put them together, and then let's move on. All right. That is why I'm saying that.
He's actually contesting your framing of what he said.
The court said, go and recollate, go and retabulate every single pink sheet in question.
Exactly. That is where I'm coming. That's where I think I mean by, you know, going to put the figures together.
No, but you are not framing, you are framing it as if I said they should continue from where they left off. My argument is that the court said, go and recollate.
That is not what I said. I said that your the description that you give to recollation seems to me that, I mean, on the pink sheet together, that is the retabulate. I think that is what it suggests, or probably I may be wrong, but that is my understanding.
So, Dr. Bernard Tutubuahin, if you are able, we are having a bit of a challenge with your network, but if you're able to just conclude on your thought, and then we'll come back to finalize what we're talking about.
Yeah, so it is my concluding point is that let us
Okay, we'll have to correct that connection to Dr. Bernard Tutubuahim, but you're still here on Agenda on TV3. My name is Beatrice. We are talking about the contested parliamentary seats and the fact that these constituencies perhaps are in limbo because of the re-collation and redeclaration of the results, and indeed who won those seats we are talking about. When we come back, we'll get reaction really to what the Electoral Commission has said as regards its explanation on what happened on Saturday, and really look at the way forward. Don't go away.
This is the reason why I love Ghana.
Then the lottery acquiring 20 years. You say Ghana.
We are one. Ghana as one.
We are proud about Ghana. Sabaya 2 years now. Across Africa,
Africa and the rest of the world salute. Ghana.
Don't get the lottery.
Nelson Roxon, who is the Member of Parliament for South Dine, in the Volta region. We do have our video call Bernard Tutubuahin, who is a political marketing and communication strategist. Unfortunately, Professor Ali Duseidu's network is not helping us to be able to connect with him. But I want to come to you, Mr. Piakubi. You were making a point earlier. You did not seem to have a problem with the stance taken by the Electoral Commission. You heard the explanation of the EC in that interview I had with Boss Manasare. I suspect that those arguments lie with your own arguments, but you've had Dafia Mepo and also Bernard Tutubuahin in particular saying that he feels both NDC and MPP are perhaps not interpreting the law correctly to favor the country. What do you say?
Well, first and foremost, let me offer this advice. When lawyers talk or state their legal opinion in respect of laws or interpretation thereof, it is ill in any other lawyer's mouth to say that you are wrong. You say, I disagree with that decision or that opinion, but you don't have any legitimate right to pronounce the rightfulness or wrongfulness of another lawyer's legal opinion. And this advice goes to my good friend Roxy. So it is not you who will say somebody's legal opinion is wrong. You don't have that superior intellectual capacity to do that. So state your disagreement, but not be judgmental as to whether it is wrong or not. And I will continue to say that laws operate within environments that are lawful. You cannot get a particular law operating within an unlawful environment. This is the principle upon which I establish my legal opinion that for whatever mandate that is given to an entity, there is a presumption of operation of law within a process of lawfulness and within an environment of lawfulness. Any failure of the two will affect the wholesomeness of the mandate as a threat. So a law cannot be in operation with the backing of the process or the environment. So you cannot say that because the law says that collect and declare, you will not also pay attention to the environment within which the collation and declaration is done, whether it is legal or not, or not. No, you can't say that. And if we allow such things to continue, then the emphasis will be on the quickness that will occasion the collation and not the lawfulness of the collation. So I totally agree with the Electoral Commission that says that when you are invested with a responsibility under the law, that responsibility ought to be discharged within the law, and the discharge must be wholesome and lawful. So if there is any way that you suspect or you feel a breach of the law within which the mandate is exercised, that duty also rests with you, the person with the mandate, to ensure that there is correction so that the declaration is lawful. And you wouldn't say that whether there is a declaration and whether the declaration was done under a threat of death, you will say that, ignore that one and say that the declaration is lawful.
Mr. Piakubi, the argument you're making is that the previous declarations or declaration by the EC for those constituencies were not lawful. You deem what happened on Saturday as a lawful one. That's what you're saying.
Which Saturday are you referring to?
Saturday, we had the Electoral Commission redeclaring the seats in 7 constituencies, including Okaikwe Central, Tema Central. Yes. We know Dom Kwabenya and Ablekuma North are currently suspended. The question I'm asking is, having listened to your argument, forgive me, yes, having listened to your argument, you deem what happened on Saturday as lawful as compared to the previous declaration?
the unlawfulness of the other one, the previous one, was being touted by the Electoral Commission, not me. And the Electoral Commission was saying that their officers, and the officers themselves were saying that they had to make those declarations under duress. And where in the law does it say that don't pay attention to the environment or the situations under which you make the declaration? And therefore, as long as the declaration is made, it is the rightful declaration. So the law expects that even in the exercise of the mandate, you are lawful in the exercise of your mandate. And therefore, the second declaration or the Re-collation was advertised within the rules of the engagement as per the CI 127. And therefore, if the provisions of the CI 127 were complied with in the second coalition, I will not say that it is unlawful. It is lawful because...
Briefly, I need to wrap up now and then come to my guest in studio and get the final word from Bernard Tutubuahin. If you could answer this in like 30 seconds for me. There are people who think that EC has set a bad precedent going into future elections. Do you agree or disagree?
No, I would have said that if the illegality perpetrated in the process of the coalition were left to stand, then we would have set a very bad precedent. And I'm very happy that officers of EC are bold in stating that they were under duress in the declaration, and therefore anything fraudulent in the process will begin to have affected the results, and therefore set a situation up to be considered in declaring the wholesomeness or otherwise of the results. It is not a quick declaration that is restricted by the law, but a lawful declaration is what the law expects.
I will have to end it here with you. Thank you very much. Andy Apiakubi, he's a member of parliament for Asante Achem North. I'm coming to you, Mr. Dafiamepo, for your own words.
Yes, first of all, my senior Andy, my senior at the bar, and my senior in practice, and he got his analysis wrong. In philosophy, in reasoning, in logic, I cannot simply say his position, I disagree with his position in law without establishing the major articulate premise. In logic, there's what we call major articulate premise and minor articulate premise. I must establish that your law is wrong so that I can disagree with you. I cannot simply say I disagree with you without establishing that the position you are espousing in law is wrong or not. So it is part of our court language to say that my learned friend's position in law is wrong, or the position he is espousing before the court is wrong. That is court language. I disagree with him because he's wrong. Then I can espouse the position that I think is correct in terms of the law before the judge. So you shouldn't take issues with that. Now, in all this, you discover that on the 10th of December, when Afenyo Maki held a press conference and demanded the EC to nullify all so-called unlawfully declared parliamentary outcomes in respect of these constituencies, that was when the EC moved into action. I want to establish a certain pattern. How come the EC, as part of the court processes that they claim that we are going through yesterday, they are not recollating the results from Fantiakwa North? Fantiakwa North was originally declared for the NDC. The NPP brought it back to Tesano and got it declared for the NPP by an unaccredited EC staff. In rehabilitating these matters, the EC has refused to include Fantiakwa North.
So the point you're making is?
The point I'm making is that the EC, in fact, the EC is rather the most dangerous constitutional body we have. Bosman Asari is talking about fraudulent declarations. And that when some people make allegations of fraudulent declarations, it's up to the EC to determine. It is not. It's up to a court of law. So you see, our trust in the EC has completely been eroded. Because you see, if you have an EC populated by Jaime Mensah, Dr. Sribo, Dr. Bosman Asari, Dr. Piahini, and Samuel Tete, who are unashamedly NPP aligned, then you have a problem. He sits there and say that they have the power to determine.
We know of the Apia man at EC, but you're including
Apia Hene.
Apia Hene. We've spoken about him, but you're including.
I'm actually in court. I'm actually in court regarding his appointment, and the matter has been in court for about 2 years now.
I'm aware of that one.
Yes. So I am saying.
But I'm just wondering why you're including Samuel Tete and Bosman Asare.
Why Samuel Tete? They're all senior officers. It was Samuel Tete who had a press conference and said that they were not going to respect the declarations made their officers at their respective collation centers in these respective constituencies. Meanwhile, the law in Regulation 3 of CI 127, it is the returning officers who have the power to make these declarations.
And if you could be wrapping up for us,
yes,
the way forward.
Let me wrap up. I am saying that, look, Bosman Asare today says that if we are not satisfied with what the EC has done, we should go to court. What has the EC done? The declarations that were made on the 9th of December, on the 8th of December, on the 9th of 7th of December, were they made by GPRTU officers? Those declarations, were they made by GPRTU officers? They were made by EC officials who were mandated in law to do. So if somebody now decided that, look, you guys go and write a petition. If you write a petition to us, we will act on it. That is what they have done. Because the petition only came from Ofosuhini.
You heard us, Bosman Asare saying that those same individuals came back to say they were
He alluded to the fact that somebody had a gun pointed to his head. When we asked him, he ran away from that point. And was alluding to the fact that did you see the declarations from Okankwe Central and that the person said he was declaring pursuant to 70% of the pink sheet. You made a categorical allegation that somebody had gun pointed to his head. This is the choreographed narrative that they have had with the NPP. So this is what the NPP says. His narrative on this matter is no different from what the NPP is saying.
Wrap up in like 30 seconds for me, and I'll get the final word.
Now I am saying that the EC itself has become a very lawless institution. They have refused to have regard to court processes that the NDC has filed. You say we should go to court. We went to court before you ordered for re-collation. When you are in court, the law mandates you to respect court processes. Even if you think the outcome will not favor whoever has gone to court, respect the court processes.
And we understand you're citing the EC for contempt. Is that what it is?
Of course, we'll do that.
Okay.
And let me tell the EC officers that pursuant to Regulation 45(2) of CI 127, they are subject to penal provisions where we think that their conduct that was supposed to have been that have been carried out in pursuance of CI 127 were not so done.
We'll have to end it here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Nelson Roxon Dafiamekpo. He's a member of parliament for South Dine and a lawyer as well with the incoming NDC government. We've also had Dr. Bernard Tutubuahin, who is a political marketing and communications strategist. Of course, just some minutes ago, you heard Andy Apia Kubi there, member of parliament for Asante Achim North, also giving his side of the story, and that response from the deputy chair of the Electoral Commission, Dr. Bosman Asare. My name is Beatrice Edu. Thank you so much for joining us on Agenda tonight. Join us again next week. Have a good evening.
The news never stops if it's not breaking.